Welcome back. I am going to continue with the Bookmark Manager. So far we've done the first sort of 13 up until a simple credit. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to start with just tidying up what I've done so far, a bit of refactoring. I'm going to speed through validating some bookmarks. And then have a look at relationships. That's what I aim to do in this session. I might get on to registration authentication, but I'm just focus on the next sort of 4 steps. So as a reminder, where are we? We have a controller that has a way to read all the bookmarks, create new bookmarks, delete bookmarks, and then edit. We have another sort of edit page with a form to send across data that we need to update our bookmarks by. We test drove a find by method for our bookmark class, and we have update, delete, create, and all methods. And we had to override our requests from the form submission, because form submissions only do get and post requests, and we overwrote them using sort of the method hack. So we could send requests as delete and put. And so in our form, we added this sort of hidden parameter underscore method and to delete, and then in our edit form, in the same way we did it with a put. Cool. That's where we are at the moment. And the next step is to have a look at extracting a database setup object. So test drive a way to set up a connection and execute SQL. Okay, so I don't think I even want a class. What do I want it to do? I just want it to connect to the database, execute the query, and return the result. What state am I keeping? None. What does it say that? What's a store? We're going to close the connection. I'm closing the connection, so I'm not going to do it that way. They might when they're doing it, they haven't ensured that the connection was closed, which is maybe why they were storing it in the instance variable, but we're going to just always close it. Best practice, just close it. Okay, so let's use a module. I'm not going to bother to test it at the moment. We'll come back to that later. I'm just going to use my current test for my bookmark to make sure nothing breaks when I go through this refactor. And then I might, at the end of it, come back and add some unit tests for this object that I'm creating. Why am I doing that? Well, I'm not exactly sure what I want this module to do, so I'm going to play around with just extracting first using my current feature test suite and unit test suite to make sure nothing breaks and still things are working as expected. And then I might move on to more important things, but I might come back to it later. Okay. So I think that's going to be my plan for the moment. Essentially what I want to do, there's lots of repetition here, and I want to remove all the things that are essentially common to all of my query methods. So if I look through it, or I don't always map through it to create instances, but what I'm always doing is connecting to the database, executing the query, rescuing any errors, and ensuring the connection is closed. So that's the stuff that I want to pull out. So I'll pull that out into a file that has like a module in it. So let's go require DB connection. Sure, let's name it that. I guess let's include it if we're using a module. No, keep it simple, let's keep it simple. DB connection, fine. Sorry. then really what I want to do is just do that. Map through it. That's ideally what I want. Create the connection, and then with the result, map through it, and go to that one. Okay. As a result, I need to have this file, Bookmark DB connection, will load. I think the lib file is already loaded. Let's create a folder, not in the lib though, please. And then we'll create a DB connection file and require our PG gem because that makes sense, and module DB connection, and here is where we're going to write our own exact method that takes in some kind of SQL query. And here's where let's just copy and paste the thing from Bookmark. We already deleted it there, so let's just take one that doesn't have the extra stuff. And we're going to replace everything here. Boom. That's pretty much it. So I've only changed it in one place. So let's make sure our find by method is still working as a test. So rspec bundle exec rspec spec unit bookmark line 5. Cool. So as a result, I can actually probably use it here as well. But let's focus. Yeah, start here. Let's replace everything that I don't need. So that's the query that I want. And therefore I don't need that, but I do need this, but I don't need that, or that, or that. Let's try that again. Okay. DB connection exec. We don't need that. We don't need that. Oh, this is quite easy. Boom, 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 boom. That whole thing gets rid of, and we do this. And same thing here. Now, let's double check. Let's run all of our units. Everything is still passing. Let's run all of our tests. Exec rspec. Cool. And so that was a small refactor to hide everything in the, or essentially capture everything to this module called DB connection, and then let that handle executing the queries. Still some duplication here. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, that feels like it is a little better. I could probably use it here. If I did require lib DB, I should just require DB connection. It's not loaded. DB connection. Well, we'll see. And then I want to do something like DB connection.exec. Should I run this test? Let's run it just to make sure. This is spec unit bookmark, and then 6. Cool. And let's do it again here and change. Well, I actually can leave it because I can update it now. Yep. Insert everything. Call bookmark all and expect bookmarks.first. And let's do title. Just clean that up. Test title. Cool. Using create there. And again. Cool. Still good. Anywhere else? Anywhere else? Create, delete, update, view, database cleaner. We could probably use it here as well. So I guess we should actually require PG, require DB connection, and remove all of this, keep this, and go DB connection.exec, truncate table. Okay, anything else that we can clean up? All tests are still passing. Yeah. Anything else I can clean up? Let's just like walk through some code to see, is there anything that I can do? I guess the delete bookmarks, I could probably in my delete, I post to bookmarks and I send the ID over like this. You know what? I think I want to change this. I want to do it a little bit more dynamically like I was doing here. So if I do and into hold on, let's just grab that. If I put this here, bookmarks, bookmark ID, that's it, that's all I want. And then I don't need to send it across like that. And in my controller, I go something like this, and then it just becomes ID again. Yeah, okay, I prefer this. The same way, let's do it here. Let's just be dynamic everywhere. Create, I don't need the ID because it hasn't been created. And I'm getting the edit page. These are like, yeah. Okay. I need to change those two things. So here, I don't need this anymore, but I will need the ID here. Go back. Bookmarks. Action. I need the whole thing, and I need to go like that. And this is going to be a string, and that's going to be interpolated. And I'm going to go to bookmarks, and then the ID. So now I can get rid of that. URL and title is what things I'm going to update. I send across as put and I'll update. And then it goes, it's going to post to bookmarks.id, which becomes a put. And in my controller, bookmarks ID. Cool. I'm sure I've broken some tests, so let's have a look. One test broke, no method map for nil class. So on my controller, line 28. Cool. So I need to make sure that has the right params now. Cool. All right, a little bit more. So I prefer to have the dynamic URLs compared to just sending it over via form data using like a hidden input field. What else can I do to clean things up? Yep, fine, mostly fine. Extract everything else out at the moment. Fine, my specs are mostly fine. Cool. Let's double check. Cool. I think they probably did it a different way, so I'm not going to worry too much about how they've done it. PG Connect. They're storing the connection. Oh, yeah, just to make sure they don't. Are you going to keep open forever, maybe? Why are you doing bookmark? Again, you don't need to. Yeah, no worries. Ignoring this for my approach. Okay. Oh, I want to do so many more things, but fine, let's not worry about it. Focus on the thing at hand. Okay, so you have now an application that allows bookmarks to review the database. When testing, you might find there's an open user created by an invalid URL. Your create validation ensures the URL is in fact a valid URL in the model layer. Only if each test explicit programmation of the page. Okay, fine. They want to do some flash chases. If you do not submit a real URL, pass each test by doing the simplest thing. Well, great, yes. Displaying a flash notice on the bookmark when the new bookmark is invalid. Okay. Feature test. I guess as part of create bookmark spec. This will be context valid bookmark URL, and this is going to be the context where it's invalid bookmark URL. This should be valid bookmark in general because I'm not sure what other things will happen. Let's specifically focus on the invalid URL part. So user sees error message. Fill in with blah and title with test. Go ahead and save. Expect page to have content. Invalid. Just say blah is an invalid URL. That's it. That's it. I'm not going to focus too much on about it because we just want to demonstrate this, and we're not going to go too far into trying to specify it to be an exact URL. Okay, let's run it to see if it fails. And this is line, let's say 16. Bundle exec rspec spec features creating. Fine. Cool. Doesn't see it on the page. And let's say expect page not to have content test. So it'll still be the same one because I haven't got to the next one yet. You can always find text blah is an invalid URL. Okay, so in our model, no, not yet. So let's go to our controller. Here, this is our create route. So we only want to do this if we've checked that the URL is blah, blah, blah. So let's do a simple if condition. If parameter bookmark URL, blah, 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 something like equals, but we're correct. Then if it's fine, do this, else do something else. And in all cases, redirect to bookmarks. Okay. So let's try and figure out how to use setting up Sinatra Flash. What is this? I want the actual documentation. Okay, let's open up a new tab. Set up, gem install, Sinatra Flash. Okay, bundle, add Sinatra Flash. Require Sinatra Flash. We need to enable sessions. If you're using the Sinatra base style, you need to register the extension. Register Sinatra Flash. Boom. Jim constantly with helper view helper that iterates the current Flash version is styled HTML yields. because all the cool kids are using it, HTML body styled flash goes into what? Okay. Okay. So I want to do something like this, where if it's correct, do that. Otherwise, flash now error is equal to what did I say? Is an invalid URL. Oh, was that my test? So many tabs. Close all tabs. Keep that open and keep that open, please. Blah is an invalid URL. Is an invalid URL. Okay. So how do I do some basic validation at the moment? Simple validation for URL Ruby. Don't want Rails, don't want Rails. That's always going to be Rails, isn't it? Ruby URI pass method. What's this? What's URI pass Ruby? Where's the actual method? That's not very helpful. Okay, so it just turns it into a URI object. Raised if URI given is not a correct one. Okay, let's try it out. Let's play around with it, just double check how this works. Require URI. What? Do I have access to it already? I do. Okay, URI.pass blah. Well, raised if URI given is not a correct one. How is this helpful? URL, how can I? No, I don't care about any of that. I need more information. I need more information. How is this helpful? I need more. Oh, I see. They're doing it like that. URL. URL dot host as nil. So if I did both, it's going to pass it. So if I did something like, okay. So any string works. Other than a string, it does it, but then you have to do the host as well. Okay. You can be more specific to make sure it's a kind of thing. Yeah, all right. I am literally not going to worry about it too much. Let's just do that. So this is in my controller that I need to do this. And let's write a private method def validate URL and valid. And this is going to check for URI.parse the URL. And what was it? Parse it. Well, how does that even work? It doesn't, because it needs to be the what? Yeah, that's a bit weird. Okay, we pass it and then we do something like URI. Okay, clearly that would raise an error message, right? So URI.host. So we'll go rescue false. Can I do that? Otherwise, let's also give back false or nil. And this will either give me, this will, if it's nil, this will be true, and therefore this will be false. If it's nil, if it's not nil, that'll be false, that'll be true. Fine, I'm going to not worry about it too much. Is that even going to work? Let's be better about this. Make sure. Try and pass it. If it's invalid, it'll go false. If it's a U, would we pass it? And there is no host, then it's also going to be false. The only way this will pass if there's an actual thing here. Okay. And this is meant to be the model layer, not the controller layer. All right, let's put it in the wrong place for it, folks. So if it's not valid, if I try and create it, what? Why'd they ask me to do this? Well, I'm gonna have to change a few things if I want to do it in the model layer. All right, fine. Let's do it in the model layer. Okay. In which case I need to change my create method to return a bookmark. All right, let's do it that way. This is going to be a bit of a detour. Okay. So let's have a valid method here, where I'm not going to worry about the URL for the moment because I'm inside the model. We'll have access to the URL method here. And that's the only condition at the moment that I need. So I want to call this method before. So am I valid essentially? If so, if valid here, else we're going to return a empty nil URL and title. And we'll attach some errors onto this. Errors dot what was the error message I had? URL is an invalid URL. At the moment we're only checking on the URL, which is frustrating. Let's just keep it like that. It's a bit brittle. It's only the value is only checking on the URL. And that's all I'm going to worry about for the moment. This will have to be a reader method called errors, and errors is going to be other way around. Bookmark is a new bookmark. Bookmark dot errors. And errors is going to just be a. Oh, I guess actually I could do something like URL. That might be better. So now I could actually just target different things if I needed to. A little bit more flexible, but still not quite that great, but fine. So a few things I've just done. I'm going to have to sort of work my way in cover with tests in a second because I kind of sped ahead of myself a little bit, trying to essentially look that design is emerging from my playing around. Essentially, by doing it in the model layer, I'm having to make sure that I check if it's valid before I insert into the database. This valid method is just checking for the URL, checking that. Essentially, it's a string, and when I pass it, there's a host part to the string. Otherwise, it'll be false. If it's false, I create an instance of the bookmark without saving to the database, and just so I can attach information to it. And I want to return the bookmark at the end of it. So either it returns the connection result, or it's going to return like an errored bookmark. If that's the case in my controller, I really want to return a bookmark either way. Let's just return true. And then I can, bit of a hack, but fine. I can do something like if bookmark.create is true, no, I can't do that. No, don't do that. What do you want to happen? Think about it. That's why you're speeding ahead. Bookmark.create. Let's create it. If result then we're good. We don't need to do anything else. Guess we just made this bookmark created, bookmark saved. I don't like this thing. At the moment we have a couple things happening from the result of our create method. I don't like the way that we're approaching this, but let's keep going. And the create method is either going to return like the connection object or a bookmark. So really, if I want to make this work, I should return a bookmark in either way. So as a result, what I need to do is, here's where I probably need to return some stuff, right? So I think I can do something like returning ID, URL, and title, and then result is, I'm going to do that. And because I've created, I'll just do the first one. Okay. That will get me a bookmark. both will get me a bookmark, and the bookmark has a valid method and an errors method. So bookmark is a result of the creation. If bookmark is valid, flash it's saved, otherwise flash the error that says I can now use bookmark dot URL as an invalid URL. No, that's not what I want. I want to go bookmark dot errors. Okay. So we did a fair bit just as I was trying to think my way through this without writing some tests. I now I'm going to write some tests to cover what I've done. So we're going to start with bookmark spec because I wrote some methods here. We're in the instance scope here, so let's describe the valid method. Checks if the URL is valid. So I don't need that just yet at all. I'm going to try and true, let's do this, true if the URL is valid. First bookmark dot update, no. This is in the no, not the create method. So what I want to do is bookmark describe class. I'm like, where am I? Yeah. I guess I could do describe class. Described class.new with URL and title, and let's go something like a real one, www.bbc.co.uk, BBC, expect bookmark, expect bookmark dot valid to equal true, and the same again when it's blah blah equal false. 68. Missing keyword ID. Initialize ID. It doesn't really matter, so I'll keep it as nil for the moment. Expect bookmark valid to equal true, got false. False. Yeah. Slide 69. True. It's done to HTTP. True if the URL is valid, false if the URL is invalid. Okay, so quick valid there. Let's the errors method is going to just be a hash. There's really no behavior here, it just returns a hash. So let's add a short test for this. Errors, it starts empty. Expect errors dot empty to equal true. Interesting. Let's go back to Bookmark. If this is not going to work because this valid is at the wrong scope. So really what I could do is do this first. It's a bit weird, but work with me for a second. Bookmark is equal to new if bookmark.valid, then we insert it and create a new instance, else just return the bookmark. That's what I need to do, because if I can add this when I run valid. If I rescue, then I could add errors. And that gets rid of all of that and just return bookmark is now the new bookmark. And I return the bookmark. All right, a bit hacky, but I think I prefer that. At some point, we'll figure out a way to persist it so I don't have to create a new one here. I could just take this one and then like write a method called persist or save. Maybe I'll do that in a second to make it cleaner. All right, I'm kind of just playing around at the moment, but let's just go with me. Okay, back to my spec. So this is what happens. I stopped thinking about my specs. Where are we? Let's run it again. What have I broken? 959 in my model. If end do end bookmark. Okay, that's still fine. This method is still fine, but now I've added a side effect here. Let's double check. If false invalid, and it adds errors. Oh, no. You're fine there. But if it's true if the URL is valid, false if it's invalid, but then also bookmark.valid, expect bookmark errors to keys to include URL. say errors empty to equal false. Okay, so I won't say because it's specify what the exact error message is, just that we add a key into the hash that it's a URL error, and that it's there's something in there. Cool. Should be. We have to make sure it's false, otherwise it's true, and we should probably assert that errors is true. I guess yeah. I feel like I've done this with a valid one. Errors. I guess we can do it manually. Starts off empty. Can add key value pairs. Bookmarks dot errors test equals test, and I mean it's a hash, right? So it feels a bit weird. Yep, false, and keys to include test. I don't really like this test because I feel like it's sufficiently tested confidently and wise in this, but it's still a public method. And find out the bookmark dot errors, and bookmark errors. We put line 86. Bookmark. Ooh, okay. What's going on here? P bookmark. Arrows. So when did I add it? Is that why? Bookmark line 39. IDM that comes from line 22. That's why. ID URL title. And find the URL for nil class, bookmark spec line 34. Create okay. So I have to now change test create URL, replacing current project to be something like http www.test.com. Yeah, replace all. Test URL. Okay. Those are fixed, and let's double check this error message on 86 line 86. Okay, so this is saying that we expected false. Double check that my test is doing things in the right way. We're looking at the valid method on line 86. We create a new bookmark with no ID, a terrible URL, blah. This should be false. This should add error messages to the bookmark and print out the bookmark that hasn't got any. So let's go to the bookmark and I see this will return. If it's a string, it won't get added, right? So that's only for this part here, and it rescues it. If cause an error, and we'll just rescue. The moment is any errors that are happening. This is not very good because I should be much more specific in saying the URI error or the raise error. There's not that much code that's happening here. Raise if it's nil. If there's no host, then we'll add that in. Otherwise, it will be true. So either both things should raise cause errors, so we'll rescue it and add the error, and otherwise then we return false or true. Cool. URL blah is an invalid URL. Okay, so let's go to that log statement. Where is it? Probably my test, bookmark spec. Boom, get rid of that. We now have passing unit test for our bookmark of errors and the valid. So let's go back to my feature test. I'm going to add this into here, bookmark saved. Bookmark saved. Let's make sure we have HTTP and as a valid bookmark. And if we are not, it's going to say it's an invalid, not to have test, and the current path to be here. Okay, so let's run this feature test to remind ourselves where we're at. Feature create bookmark spec, let's run both. Failure to have bookmark saved, so our flash messages aren't happening at the moment. So let's go back to feature search for flash. Well, I've added it to the error. So my models have an error, but I need to send something back to my browser. And if I go to my controller, I'm doing so with this, or saying it's saved. I need to somehow access this flash hash on in my view file. So how do I do that? Styled flash, is that? Is that why the other resource was here? Setting up flash keys. All right. Right for your layout. I don't have a layout file just yet, but this is a good reason to have one. Layout.erb HTML reader yields right before your yield block, so I'll have it at the top of the page. Let's add that here. Flash keys, h2 type, flash type. I don't really know what the hell it is. This is what. Let's see what happens, folks. Here's a double check. Sinatra layout ERB yield. What? What a terrible article. Dear me. Let's just have a look at what's going on. I need to print things, so it has to be a yield like that, yeah. Create bookmark specs. Let's go back to my controller. Is it in the next request? Because I redirect. Oh, brilliant. It is the next request. Okay, so adding a flash message saying it saves, creating bookmarks invalid bookmark URL user sees error message. Blah is invalid, and it says is an invalid. Capitals. Where am I adding it? In the model URL is invalid URL. So that should pass. Kaboom. It's not in a nice way, but I'm not going to worry about it at the moment. It's not all I need to do, really. What does the instructions for this say? Is it just the new bookmark? It really should be the edit as well, shouldn't it? So let's update our tests here as well. Update a bookmark. When we edit it, click link edit, click link button. Yes, it should be there. We should have the new one, and we should also expect page to have content bookmark updated, and in the same way we should have another scenario. Sees error with invalid bookmark URL. Fill in URL with reddit.com, update, seems to have content, reddit.com is an invalid URL, not to have a link. Oh, it's just going to go back and it should have the first one. So it won't have that, and it will have the original ones. So let's run those specs. Yeah, cool. So let's go to our controller, and in the put request we are going to do something similar, where we are going to we're going to have to create an instance just to check. Yeah, fine. Bookmark. Oh, we need to create a write access. Interesting. How do I want to do this? I redirect to the bookmarks. So all I need to do is if this is true or not. So if bookmark.update, if it's true or false. Then we're going to bookmark updated. Otherwise, we redirect. So then we go to our update in the model, and here, like we do our create, we need to say create an instance of it with the new stuff. And we go bookmark.valid, return unless return. If it's invalid, return. So return false unless it's valid. Keep going, and then we return true. we don't need to return true, as it will just return the connection object. So in my update, no, yeah. Unify method new for bookmark models line 47. Cool. What? Class. Expected to find bookmark updated in bookmark updated. Bookmark updated is going to be in my controller. I expect to find text reddit.com is an invalid URL in nothing. Line 48. Update books up. So we didn't add anything into it. So when I went to the model, it hasn't got here valid. Why not? Is reddit.com not an invalid URL? URL, let's just run 48. Google. Yeah. Okay. UI.host. No. Okay, so we know that it's let's work through it. Bookmark specs line 48. Respect to comment content. Are we flash nexting? Because clearly it doesn't see it, but we only have BBC in Google, so this hasn't worked. So let's go back to the controller, and if I'll take the update route in a second, doesn't have that, we flash next the error. Let's double check which one we on. P in update, P in error. So we get to the in error, which is good. So we have What bookmark are we returning here? The update. Okay, fine. Let's do the same thing that we did before. Returning ID URL title. If bookmark is valid, you execute and we return, else, no, otherwise we return the bookmark. And the one that we validated has errors, otherwise we return a new bookmark that has all the right information. Bookmark updated, okay. What? So we always return the bookmark at the moment. So then we can go back and have a look at our controller that says we find a bookmark, we try to update, so we can do that actually over here. Let's reassign. Find it, then we update. Whatever happens, it's either going to be the if bookmark not valid, bookmark updated. Otherwise, we show the errors, redirect back. Line 50. Self.class.new. Cool. What else is broken? Nothing. All my feature tests are working. And what else is broken? Unit bookmark spec line 54. Updates record for the table, new URL. Yeah, fine. HTTP www.title.com. Cool. Starts off with test.com, goes to title, so we should go updated bookmark to go to title. Where? 63. Cool. Jesus Christ. Okay, so we did a few things there. We tweaked our update method to always return a bookmark, whether it's invalid or not. And if it's invalid, it will have a nil value. If it's valid, it will actually have a real ID. That's one way we can check. And the same thing we did with our create route. Our find by is nothing else has changed. We added some flash stuff here, so let's rack it up and have a look. It's still cannot load DB connection. Require can't load such file DB connection. Where from? config.ru app line 2 bookmarks. Okay. Lib connection. What have I done? Oh, I should be able to add something. So a new, no, this has to be HTTP. Let's just grab that. URI pass docs save. Okay, why is this happening? No method map for nil class bookmark on line 25. Bookmark create line 25 here. Undefined method map for nil class. What just happened? Debug it. So my create bookmark spec let's keep it there. And I want to have a look. So that's like this one here. And I did URI pass docs there. Then I click save and it errored, right? So let's run this test now. It should be exactly the same. Bundle exec rspec spec, and then line 5 features create 5. Okay, good, same error. Creating bookmarks. Is it more than 60 characters? It is. If I get rid of that. I have a constraint on my data type on this field that says it has to be 60 characters. So that should now work. Cool, and it's worked, but the test failed because I changed the input here. So I'm going to undo this, and everything's working as expected. I'm not going to worry about adding those tests in. Let's just shorten it. Ruby docs bookmark saved. What is this X? I'll have to look at that in a second. So if I refresh the page, it goes away. So it's part of the flash. Why is close? I don't want this at the moment. So if I add another one, let's go with BBC, and ed, save, bookmark saved. Add a wrong one. It says is an invalid URL. Cool. Okay, that took far longer than I was actually expecting, but we did a few cool things there as I worked through that a little bit more manually than I was expecting. Let's have a look. That's client side. What are they talking about? This walkthrough is in 3 parts, adding a feature test for invalid and such for impacting the validation logic into the bookmark model. Self is a URL bookmarks. Well, I think my way might be cleaner. Cool. So I'm probably going to stop there. Didn't get as far as I wanted to, but fun times, fun times. I'll do relationships next, and then registration and authentication, and I might play around a little bit afterwards with some more stuff. So let's stop recording there, and see you next time, folks.